Buying a home in Calgary should be really exciting, but sometimes it might feel like you're lining up for a brand new store in Chinook Center Mall. Whether you're waiting for foreclosures to blow up and happen, or if you're waiting for interest rates to drop in the future, you're in the right place, because we're going to talk about both of them today. Before all of you keyboard warriors coming in hot typing, I want to make sure that you know that I'm approaching this not like a real estate agent. I'm approaching this from a very analytical view, telling you what's actually happening in the marketplace, because truth be told, I am not attached to you buying a house, whether you're gonna go rent, whether you leave the city or you come to the city, it doesn't matter to me. I wanna give you the knowledge and the information that you need to make the right decisions when it comes time to those who are actually wanting to purchase in Calgary in the coming years. So let's start looking at foreclosure rates. Currently in Canada, we are seeing a 0.15% of all mortgages in delinquency right now. And that basically means delinquency is like they're behind their payments. They haven't hit foreclosure status yet, they're not on the market, they're just in arrears, right? And in Ontario, it's 0.09%. Alberta as a whole is sitting at 0.28%, and in BC it's about 0.11%. Now Calgary itself is actually sitting at 0.09%. And you can see on the chart over here where Calgary is, which is the bright orange, yes, the bright orange line, and Canada is the bright red line. So in Calgary in 2021, it was reported that there was around 502,305 homes in Calgary. So if we kind of look at that, and we look at a number that was also reported in 2016 saying that about 41% of all homes that they knew the mortgage status about had a mortgage. So let's just kind of create some math. Let's say about 60% of all the homes in Calgary have a mortgage on them and 40% do not. So let's just use those numbers to start. So that would equate to 301,383 homes that have a mortgage on it here in Calgary right now. So looking at the delinquency rate in Calgary from this chart over here, currently we're sitting at 0.09% in Calgary. Now that is gonna go up. There are things that are happening in our economy, there are things that are changing, and that rate is going to increase. In 2013, we saw it peak around 0.31%. So let's use that number, and if we get back there, it could go higher a little bit, but even let's use that number, that what it could go to in the future. Currently, we have 271 homes in Calgary based on that 0.09% that are in delinquency, and even less are gonna go into foreclosure. So there's just really not a lot of foreclosures on the market. So even if we go to the 0.31% that we hit in 2013, that only equates to 934 homes out of the 301,000 homes that have a mortgage in Calgary. So out of the 934, not all of them are gonna go fully into foreclosure and hit the market for you to buy. So, man, like if there's not a lot, even if we double that amount and you're at 1,800 homes and 900 go in foreclosure, we're not gonna see foreclosures just rise like crazy in the future years. Historically, it has been shown that Calgarians hold their homes and they're not willing to give it up. Now, on to cheaper interest rates. If you are sitting around waiting to buy a property because rates are too high for you right now, I get it, I understand. For the last number of years, we've seen some incredibly low interest rates, but I mean, historically, we are not that high. However, it is gonna go down in the future, and I agree. If you're waiting for it, you're gonna see it. But does that mean that it's actually going to become cheaper? And this is truly the ugly truth of buying in Calgary right now, and actually a lot of places in Canada. And is it going to be a cheaper thing for you to do in the future? And there's a lot to unpack here, so stick with me. And so with a recession, many times individuals think that things are gonna crash, properties are gonna go down, foreclosures are gonna go through the roof, all of this stuff is gonna happen. And that's kind of what we expect to happen. But history has actually shown that properties don't always decrease like crazy in a recession. So let's check this out. So using CD Howe's recession chronology and average prices from the Canadian Real Estate Association, the data show that home prices have held up surprisingly well once a recession begins. The average decline during a recession was actually not a decline at all. And I find that kind of surprising. For the average consumer who's not checking into this all the time, that can kind of feel backwards, right? Why should homes typically go up in value during a recession? Because a recession means it's not a good thing. Well, that's what has happened in the past. So much so that the average increase has been about 1.8% in the past recessions. The next thing that we have to figure out and consider and talk about is low unemployment. So we are sitting right essentially in the middle of all of the provinces for unemployment rate. Now, if we look at the data a little bit deeper and we focus on Alberta and we actually look at it by age, you can see really quickly that the increase and the highest unemployment rate that is pushing our average really high is those that are between the ages of 15 to 24, because they're sitting at 12.6% unemployment rate. Those that are between the ages of 25 and older are all around 4.6 and 4.7. So we still have a relatively low unemployment rate, which means a lot of people are employed, especially those who are making moves in the real estate market, because most people under the age of 24 are not buying and selling homes. Those that are doing it are over the age of 24. Now, the next thing is supply shortages. So we got to talk about housing supply. We got to talk about what is happening with the inventory in our market. And so this first chart here is our population growth versus housing starts in Alberta. And I was shocked when I pulled the numbers and put it together in a chart that you can see. So what it's showing is the red line is the population growth that we have seen all the way back, I believe it goes to the year 2000. And the blue line is how many homes are being built, new homes in Alberta every quarter. These are all quarterly numbers going through the chart. Now, if you look at this next chart, you can actually see the trend line decreasing since the year 2000. The average number of homes being built every quarter in Alberta has dropped since the year 2000. And if you go back and look at the number of population, the population growth is not going down. It's actually quite quickly going up, especially in the last 2 years. So what I did is I wanted to figure out, for those that are moving to Alberta from other provinces and from internationally, how many homes are being built? This is not resale, this is all new homes. How many homes are being built per person that is moving here? And for years, you can see that it was right around like 2 to 3 individuals were coming to Alberta and a home was being built. So that could be a couple, a family, and that kind of makes sense. But recently, we are actually sitting at 9.1 individuals are moving to Alberta for every 1 home that is being built. That is a shocking number, and that is a huge increase in our population growth without the new homes being built. And what does that do? That puts pressure on our inventory, on the resale market, and that ultimately is increasing prices across the board. And then there's mortgage rates. I mean, we have never talked about mortgage rates as much as we have had in the last number of years with things increasing. We've never talked about the Bank of Canada as much as we have had either. And all of these things are just right in front of us, and it's kind of like regular conversations. But what has happened is there is an actual flip in terms of variables and the fixed mortgage rates. So if you go all the way back to 1998, variable rates have always essentially followed and been lower than fixed rates. Well, according to this, and earlier this year, it flipped. Variable rates are actually more expensive than fixed rates. So what does that mean? Basically, that's telling us that in the future, rates are going to start decreasing. When the riskier money, like variable interest rates, because it can fluctuate as things change, is higher for the consumer than a fixed rate, because people will pay more for security, and that's what a fixed rate does, then things are a little bit out of whack. And that is telling us that as we move into the future years, we're gonna start seeing interest rates decreasing. And so according to RBC and their affordability index, Calgary is still so much lower than all the other major cities. Calgary's sitting at 43% of your average income that goes towards your average cost of living in a home, where compared to Vancouver's 96%, Toronto is 79%, and Montreal is 51%. Edmonton is actually lower than Calgary right now, but compared to these other major cities, Calgary is still looking very, very good. And that actually doesn't help us in some ways because so many people from those unaffordable places are still looking to move here. And lastly is our current inventory of resale homes in Calgary. As you can see on this chart over here, between 24 and 2026 and 2024, the amount of people that are going to hit their refinancing time because their mortgage rate is up, right? So if you get a mortgage, you have a 5-year term, a 3-year term, a 10-year term, and those are coming up over the next couple of years. So the amount of people that are locked into a low 1.8%, 1.6%, even 2% type fixed products, they're not going to be able to keep that for very much longer. So those people are actually sitting and waiting because they don't want to give up their cheap interest rate, and I don't blame them. So they're going to end up looking at probably making the moves, or they're going to be forced to refinance, but that inventory could also come to the market. So we're walking into something very, very interesting in the coming years because you've got growth of population, you have wages that are increasing, you have housing that is decreasing, the number of housing starts, so there's less properties. You end up having the affordability still being great here in Alberta, and that could change in the future with all of these things happening, and you have interest rates going to lower potentially in the next couple years, as well as more inventory from the resale market as those people kind of have to give up their low interest rates, and at that point they might consider actually making a move and putting their house up for sale. So if you are looking for a townhome, a condo, even a detached home here in Calgary, and you want to run numbers of what it costs today compared to what it could be in the future and kind of strategize to figure out a way to make it happen, let's chat about how we can maybe come up with a strategy to figure it out. And lastly, if you're renting and you're just saying, I'm gonna sit on the sidelines and wait it out, you totally can. But just be aware that rents are probably going to continue to increase as we go into the future years. And I'm not doing this to cause FOMO or any kind of causing fear in our market. Truth be told, I want to give you the real data, truly what's happening. I don't care if you buy a house, but if you want to buy a house and you're in the market and you're trying to figure it out, there's a lot more videos and a lot more information right over here that you can go, and we'll see you on those videos.